Hey, welcome back to the Guess Where I Am podcast.
I'm Louise,
I'm Coke.
and we're with each other, kind of. We're trying out something a little bit new, a little bit out of the ordinary, so don't get used to it. But Coke is having, she's like sick, so she wasn't able to be here today. However, we did record this episode already, kind of. There's just been like a lot of problems surrounding episode 2. And now, editor me, I'm going to take pieces of that and pieces of this and kind of collage them together. And yeah, I don't know. I'm confused. It's not a Thrills and Spills. This is not a Thrills and Spills. However, what did you guys think of the first Thrills and Spills episode? Do you enjoy that format? Are you looking forward to more? How do you like the sound effects? Thrills and Spills is definitely just more casual, more fun, one story, one lesson, one moral.
Yeah, so I get into my first day in Japan where a lot went wrong. I wasn't vegan on accident. I spent a lot of money on accident. Didn't plan. And a lot happened. It was a time. It was also the first day of a 6-week trip that Joe and I had planned. And when I say planned, I mean booked our flights and accommodation, and that's it. That's all we planned. And based off of that first day, you can tell how little planning we did.
Definitely go and listen to Coke's Thrill and Spill if you haven't already.
Yep, because you don't want to be $400 down on your first day.
Just listen to it. However, we have another Thrills and Spills coming up after this episode's release, so 2 weeks from now, and it will be my story. And that's basically what the format and schedule is going to go. It's going to be, long form, Thrill and Spill short form, long form the two of us, Thrill and Spill just one of us type vibe. Because we did spend a lot of time apart while traveling, so we might as well take advantage of all the memories that we made and share it with you guys. But feel free to reach out to us on social media at Guess Where Podcast with any of your opinions, comments, concerns. Yeah, we're here for you. Anyways, let's get into this episode of Guess Where I Am, which we will be discussing working while traveling versus just traveling.
And we're here to fill in the gaps more than we did in episode 1 and explain a little bit more in depth of what we did traveling versus working, because we switched. It'll be very interesting.
What works, what doesn't work, can you do it, is it possible? Everything about, being maybe a remote worker or a visa worker or just going somewhere to travel for fun. And, what should you expect? What should you prepare? Advice, the whole 9 yards. 10 yards? I don't know how that phrase goes, whatever. Okay, let me just quickly take a moment to ground myself, because everything that I had prepared for this was like to bounce off of someone else, and now I have to try and form my opinions alone. That's unfair. I have to have my own opinions? It's fine. I have plenty of opinions. I just don't know how to say them. My heart is racing. I actually think I want to cuddle my penguin. I think I need the moral support because Coke is supposed to be here and she's sick, which is fine. But I don't like doing this without her. Coming close. This is nice. Okay. We have to start at the beginning if we're going to talk about working versus not, because I was lucky enough to do both while I was in Australia. I went for 3 months during my college winter break. We had like a really long winter break, which was so nice. And I got an internship in Melbourne. And I think we probably talked a lot about that season 1, but everything that happened in season 1 is, I have no idea what we talked about or like how deep we went into everything. But I worked in Melbourne for 3 months while Coke backpacked up and down the East Coast. And then we both went back to school. We both graduated, as you all know. And then we both went back to travel again. But this time, roles reversed. And I was the backpacker, and Coke worked as a bartender. Cue her story about that.
As planned, if you listen to season 1 of the Guess Where I Am podcast, I was supposed to be working in Perth. And that's where I was planning to do my regional work for my 88 days to get my second year visa in Australia. 2 months of living in Perth and no job. So Louise was already going to the East Coast to start her travels down, and I'm like, you know what? Everybody works on the East Coast. Let me just go to the East Coast to get my days done. I get there, get a job within the first 2 days. I think the second day I was there, I got the job. It's a very interesting way of getting a job. So I got a job as a bartender, which isn't super common to do in Australia for your regional work. Normally people go on farms and do very regional work, not hospitality work. See, I go back and forth because it's nice to just get your days done and move on. If you go on a farm, I've heard people saving up tens of thousands of dollars while they're on a farm because there's nothing else to do besides work, eat, and sleep. And you have this little community. But when you're a bartender, you're basically just living normal life in a normal city. So it was real easy to just spend the money you're making. But I have heard so many horror stories of people on these farms. But then on the flip side, I've heard how much people enjoy it. So it's like luck of the draw. But my first job as a bartender, I don't even know if I told you this, Louise, was at a bar. I was working an event called Social Club. It was the fullest circle ever. That my first night bartending ever. I've never bartended before, so mind you, I'm just thrown into this nightclub and it's like, serve some drinks at a bar called Social Club. And for those of you who also don't know, if you didn't listen to season 1, Social Club is my favorite bar in Savannah. Every night I spent there. Social Club was just that one night, literally my first night, while the sports bar was still being built. So then 2 weeks later, I actually fully start at an American-themed sports bar. I couldn't escape. I'm like, seriously? I traveled all the way around the world, get a job, and now I'm working at an American-themed sports bar? I don't know anything about sports besides the little I've played. But hey ho, it counted for my days. No, another thing, I would also make up drinks. The first month of me working there, also I couldn't understand half the people when they're ordering with their very thick Australian accents. Because in the area where I lived, up north in Cairns, oh my gosh, I'm like, huh? I'm literally leaning across the bar, being like, say that again? Yeah, English, please? They ordered, there's this thing called the lemon lime bitters. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Anytime I made it, I would just mix a bunch of stuff and I'm like, here you go. But I would always beg my friends who lived at the hostel that I was at to come visit me because I was always so bored. It wasn't that busy at this bar ever. And I'd be like, please come in. I'll give you free drinks. I'll charge you so low for triple shot drinks. Nobody really came, but on the occasion that they did come, I got them wasted. This much. If you're not watching, I'm holding up probably 3 inches worth of alcohol to 1.5 inches of soda. They were gone. You don't free pour it in Australia. I would have to pour it in a shot glass, but that's what I would do. I would start pouring it into the shot glass that I had to pour in over the cup, and then I would just let it overfill. And I'd be like looking away and be like, oh no, spilled some extra. Here you go. I was there from December until April, working not full time, but full time. Because I went away a few times in between, and I was in the hospital for one of those weeks. Like a lot happened when I was living there.
Anyway, so we're going to start at the beginning of my story, I guess. uh, of when I was working as an intern in Melbourne and how it was an amazing experience. And I can't believe it was like almost 2 years ago now. And I miss it. I miss that life. It was like one of the few moments, I feel like every now and then you have like these groundbreaking moments and realizations. And that was one of those moments for me. It was one of the first times where I realized I really could live outside of my work, but also still have a work life that felt very fulfilling. And it was amazing. And I got to know Melbourne so well that I wanted to live there for the rest of my life. And it's sad that it's not going to work, but there's still a special place in my heart for that city. Was it the people? I would say the people I was with was like maybe like 60% of what made Melbourne so amazing. The other percent was how amazing Australia and that city is. While working in Melbourne, I was able to build a really great community of friends and colleagues and get in touch with the Australian culture really well. It was also really nice having a stable life somewhere else in another place. That was incredible. And I really fell in love with the routine. And like I said, the life, it was like a life groundbreaking moment where I was like, oh my God, I can enjoy my work and enjoy my life. That's insane. And that's not that common also in America because everything is so work focused. It's hard to enjoy life sometimes and be reminded to enjoy life and be reminded to enjoy work. And like that should be everyone's ultimate goal, honestly. However, it was kind of difficult to hear all the stories of everyone traveling all the time up and down the coast. And it's so easy to backpack there, that I was, stuck at my full-time job. I was working like 5 days a week, 9 to 5. It was intense, especially because it was an internship. And it was fine. I mean, it was fine. But it was hard being tied down in a city because of work, especially when I had to go back to school. Like a lot of people who were part of the same program that I was and was interns as well, when their internship ended, they went to travel and they're like, why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, I don't know why I'm not doing that. So it was kind of hard. I guess I had a little bit of FOMO, from hearing all these amazing stories and like being all the way in that new country and not being able to explore it more was a tough pill to swallow. However, what I experienced in Melbourne and that mini life that I had for 3 months was so amazing. I was able to learn so much about myself through these new friends that I had created, talking to them over 3 months, and they are all from different parts of the world. And so they all, grow up differently. They celebrate different cultures. They say different words. I don't know.
Yeah, the community is definitely a huge thing. The friends that I made when I was living in Cairns is forever. Because it was such a working hostel too. I don't think I mentioned that everybody staying there for the most part was also doing their 88 days. So we were all there for 3+ months. And it was really fun.
It's just like a bunch of the little things that build up while you live in one place in a new place, so not like a place that you're familiar with or you're comfortable with, because you're still breaking out of your comfort zone when you're doing this, is very valuable in so many ways, just like as character development. That's my experience I had while I was working in a new country. Overall, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about other people. I really got to know a city. I really grew some deep roots, figured out the best bars, the best restaurants. the best beaches, the best parks, like the best shopping areas. I really got to know that city and really enjoyed my time there. And it was also nice because I could maintain a routine. Routine is really important to me. So it was nice to be able to maintain that. Now let's flip over to what it would be like, what it is like, in my opinion, from my experience and perspective, of what it is to just travel and not work. So traveling is really amazing. Well, I guess backpacking, where you're only staying in one place for a few days at a time and then you're moving on to the next place, is so amazing because you get to see all of these beautiful places, experience new things, meet so many more people. like I don't like so many more people from so many other places too. You're like, "Oh my god, I hadn't even thought of that country before." Which is, closed off of me, but whatever. It's it is an amazing way to just see, your Apple desktop screensaver in real life. It is very special and rewarding in its own way to see all of these beautiful places in real life. You're like, wow, your eyes go if you podcast, if you guys understand that. And you learn so much about different cultures and different ways to live because of how many people you're meeting all the time. And when you are backpacking, it's incredible for building confidence in yourself and a lot of self-discovery and understanding how you would like to navigate in the world and what your opinions are, because you're on your own. So if you want to make a friend, you've got to put on that confidence badge or that confidence hat, and you have to get out there and put yourself out there. And in doing so, that's how you learn about yourself and you become more confident in your personality, and you kind of get to recreate yourself with every interaction that you make, and you can try on different versions of yourself. And that's something that I learned while I was traveling and learned to love, because then you get to try different versions of yourself that you haven't felt comfortable trying before because you're never going to see them again. And sometimes you can have a lot of fun and just lie to lie. Okay, someone had to say it. Sometimes it's fun to say you're from a different state or a different city. Who cares? It's really not going to hurt anyone. And the amount of times that you will introduce yourself while you're backpacking can get exhausting. Because at some point, I'm like, if I have to tell someone, I'm from Connecticut, oh, Stanford, yeah, and I'm going up the East Coast, or I'm going down the East Coast. Oh, you did that excursion? What boat were you on? I did that excursion. You went to this island? I went to that island. Like, oh, you can have a lot of, uh, what's the opposite of an in-depth conversation? I don't want to say shallow. Shallow doesn't seem like, shallow seems mean. What's the word? There's a word for, okay, whatever. I can't think of the word, but it's when you don't have an in-depth conversation. It's just very surface level. You have a lot of surface level conversations. And at some point I was getting really exhausted. So I did, twist the truth a little bit. Because I was like, I never said, and I never changed my name, okay? I never changed my name, but I have changed my occupation, or just changed the way that you phrase it. I remember once, okay, this is a funny story. I was in a club talking to this guy, and he was like, oh, what do you do for a living? And in the real world, I work in sound for film and TV. I was like, let's just have fun. And I was like, I work in the entertainment industry, which is true. I do work in the entertainment industry. And he was like, oh, like, what do you do? And I'm like, anything to make someone happy. Anything to like make everyone be happy. And that is also mostly true. I want to create things that, make people smile, or, have a good time, or just honestly evoke feeling to begin with. But his mind was like, oh, I'm talking to like a what are they called? Where's my mind today? Starts with like an E. Escort. His eyes, the way his eyes and the way that he shut down at the fact that I was like, and I do anything to make someone happy, in the entertainment industry went to I'm talking to an escort, and I just let an like a escorts it to my party, and he was like, oh, okay, great, well, have a good time, and like that was the end of the conversation. And that wasn't my intention when I started the conversation. I know I just didn't want to tell the full truth, and I didn't expect it to head that way, but that was the direction it headed, and it was fun, okay? It was fun and harmless because I don't remember what this guy looks like. I don't remember what he did. I don't remember what the party's about. Like, it's just so far gone. I doubt he even remembers me. But I just remember that moment because I was like, oh my God, this went too far a little bit. It really didn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. So you can kind of, do stuff like that. It's harmless. It's harmless. It's like when you go to an Airbnb and someone's still logged in to their Netflix, and so you just change the name of the profile. Kind of funny, guys. Kind of funny, so harmless. It's right, because then like they log in, they're like, what? Who's John? Or who's Unicorn Princess 58? What the hell? Oh, whatever. It's harmless, it's funny. And you can do that when you backpack. When you're backpacking. There's all these short-term relationships. So you can really just explore yourself.
I love that because that's kind of what happens with backpacking Australia. You meet the same people going up and going down, and most of the time you're on a pretty similar path, up or down. So you do have those people that you could see in one city, not see them for 2 weeks, see them in a whole other city. So it's really nice.
The flip side of all of this is you create a lot of fast, short-term relationships where you can meet someone and you spend, I don't know, like a few hours with them and it's super deep and you guys can have these great conversations and you can even trauma dump because at the end of the day, the majority of people that you meet while you're backpacking, you're never going to talk to again. And that is a good exercise in itself of like being able to let go and, go with change and don't fight it and be okay with creating what feels like a really strong relationship and then letting it go. That mentality and lesson can really help you in life if you like struggle with change and you get attached as someone who has dealt with stuff like that before. Having these really strong, what I would think is lifelong, and then all of a sudden you get on a bus and you're like, oh, I just will follow you on Instagram now. It's like parasocial. Anyway, because traveling or backpacking is so fast paced, you do get travel fatigue over time if you don't allow yourself to slow down every now and then.
So my travels are also vastly different from when I first did it 2 years ago versus when I traveled after working last year. Traveling this time around was so different because now I had my boyfriend with me the entire time, and both of us, we had travel fatigue. Even though we were living in one spot for 7 months, by the time we went traveling, like, we don't want to talk to anybody. So it was just us. Well, I guess let's rewind a little bit. We leave Cairns, we go to Hawaii. I'm in Hawaii for a week with my mom and my sister. Joe eventually meets us out there. And then 2 days later, go to Japan. We're in Japan for 4 days. Then we go to the Philippines for 2 weeks. Then we go to Sydney. And then we spend 3 weeks, I think, going up the coast of Australia in a van. So all of those aspects were so different. We had like the city life of Tokyo and Hiroshima. Then we had the island life of the Philippines, and then we had van life of Australia. And in all of those, I don't think we made a singular friend that we could like now text and be like, "Hey, like how's it going?" No. It was just we were very antisocial. And I actually did do the Whit Sundays again because he's never done it. And we booked a really low key boat, and then it got canceled the night prior, and they moved us onto the boat that normally is booked months in advance because it's the biggest party boat. So there we are, the two people who don't drink, who are the most antisocial people ever on the party boat. And we were in bed by 8 o'clock.
And you have no routine or very little of a routine where it's just like you're brushing your teeth and you're washing your face sometimes, because you can be camping in some places where you just don't have access to water like that. I was camping on Fraser Island and there weren't showers, so I couldn't shower for like 3 days and 2 nights, which was like a long time, especially when you're sweating and you're on the beach and ugh. But it was still fun, but you don't have a routine really. And then you have these short-term relationships instead of long-lasting ones that I created while I was staying in one place and working. Still, there's always exceptions. There's always exceptions out of, let's say if I met like 20, I met more than 20 people, but out of like 20 people that I would meet, there'd probably be one person that I still talk to this day, and I still consider them someone close. And if I was ever in their city or their country, I would be like, hey, want to meet up? But that's like out of 20 people, you know? Versus when I stayed in one place, I would say there's more people that I still feel comfortable reaching out to.
I would never take back solo traveling. That was the best thing ever. Got my foot in the door, brought me out of my shell. I met so many people, but I also met a lot of people when I was living in Cairns while living with Joe and working. We just didn't want to meet people necessarily while we were going up the coast. But that was something that we talked about, and we're just like, we can't really be bothered. We already have so many friends back in Cairns.
Like, this isn't if you have a nomad remote work where you can backpack. This is, I guess, the third option. You can backpack and travel. I mean, backpack and work at the same time. I personally didn't do that. I did know someone while I was backpacking who did do that, and it was amazing because you make money, you spend money. You make money, you spend money. I guess, when you're working in one place, you get to make money, you get to spend it. When you're just backpacking, like that money's just going away. It's worth it. I'll get into that later. But there is a possibility, if you can make it work, doing a remote job and backpacking at the same time. However, there are some sacrifices that you have to make. I would say the main sacrifice is that you need to make time for that job, and it's really easy to kind of lose time and get caught up in the traveling. Like, the days go by so fast when you're doing so much, and it's like always on to the next thing. If you have a job at the same time, you need to stop and think about that job and dedicate time to it.
Yeah, that just reminded me about how Joe and I, when we did our 6 weeks of backpacking, we had so many electronics. We had my laptop, his laptop, my phone, his phone, a drone, my camera, his camera. We also had a tripod and what's like the stabilizer thing called? Like, what's that word? I can't think of the word. Yeah, anyways, we had all of this equipment because we went into the Australia part of the backpacking trip thinking we would be posting content daily. I don't think we posted once. I don't think we posted once during that trip. Everything we posted was after the fact, and I still haven't caught up on our travel account with all the content we took. It was so difficult to manage. So I do applaud the people that actually do that because I tried.
My friend who was a remote worker and backpacking, she sometimes had to spend like 3 days inside the hostel room just working, which is kind of upsetting when, you know, everyone else around you is out doing stuff and you obviously want to join them, but you need to like ground yourself and like do your work and earn your money. Now, that's the best part, is that you get your money and then you can go spend it the next few days. But it's making sure that you have that type of willpower, or I can't think today. What's the word? I guess if you can just like hold yourself accountable and commit, you know. You can't give in to peer pressure when you have a job.
I think there's such a balance between the two. Like, if you know you just want to be a traveler, period, be a digital nomad, learn how to make that balance work for you, and find those days, designate days to be like, yeah, these are my working days, and then travel the rest of the time. But if you know you're only going to travel for 6 months, save up before, and then just have the freedom. But if you also can do a part-time digital nomad thing and make money while traveling, do it. But just enjoy where you are when you can, because you're not always going to be there. So
Let's now just get into some questions that you should ask when you're trying to make a decision on if you want to work in a new country or backpack in a new country or get a remote job and do both. The first would be close your eyes. Close your eyes or look into the mirror and reflect on yourself. Who and what type of person are you, and what are you capable of? While I was with my friend, I don't know if I could necessarily manage a remote job and backpack at the same time, although the idea of it is so fun. It's such a perfect idea, but I just don't know if I have the willpower to be, you know, like, if I had to choose between sitting at a desk or laying on the beach, I'm gonna choose the beach every single time. And that's like would be a tough decision to be like, oh, I've got to work on my papers today, or I don't know. I don't know what I would do remotely. Maybe I'll take a swing at it, but it's not really something that I can comment on because I just haven't had that experience yet. But look into yourself and decide what you can manage.
I think I'm work then travel, because the little that I did attempt to do when Joe and I were going up the coast, we spent like 2 days in Byron Bay at a cafe just working. It was not fun. Byron is my favorite city. Why we chose that city to do that in? Like, why? But yeah, it just wasn't for me. So I'm more of a work than travel kind of gal, for sure. I feel like that's how I used to be. I thought I would be able to work while traveling, especially just the making money aspect of it. I always wanted to be making money while traveling. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll figure out how to do it. Maybe this is our work while travel. Hey, we're open.
Do you work well with constant noise and constant change? Because that's going to be another thing, is if you're like someone who needs to work in complete silence, it's really hard to find complete silence while you're traveling. There's almost always someone in the hostel room, someone in the common room. Are you able to maintain a tight budget and travel freely abroad? Like, can you handle that? Or or are you more of a tap princess, tap queen maybe, and you're just so easy to tap your card around and blow your budget within the first few days, right? Then you might need a job.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because everybody wants to travel. Why wouldn't you want to travel? But you got to work to travel. You got to have money. So
Would it be easier for you to find a remote position or a working visa while traveling? For me, the working visa was a great move. And are you going to have good Wi-Fi access? Sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere and there's no Wi-Fi, and if you're there for a few days, work isn't going to be able to reach you. So you have to kind of think of ahead of time, how are you going to get access to the internet? Usually it's possible. Sometimes it's not. It's something that you have to think about. Fun fact, and switching it up to a fun fact, bleisure, business and leisure. Sometimes it's called bleisure, so you can always be like, I'm here on bleisure. Oh, what are you doing in town? Bleisure. I'm bleisured. I'm bleisuring. I'm a bleisure. This is what happens when I'm alone. Freaking bleasured out. Going to bed. Okay. The last thing that I want to add, just to kind of, I guess I'm a visual learner. This isn't visual at all, though. This is a podcast. Well, we do have a video if you guys want to watch that. I kind of like to think, or I made this, I guess, metaphor. I don't know what you call it. But when you're working or you're traveling, I feel like there's two weights that you can carry. You can carry the first weight, which would be having to work while traveling. And that means you have to think about work and you can't, I guess, fully immerse yourself to an extent when you're still grounded in a job. The second weight that you can carry is traveling freely, but then you have to think about the amount of money that you're spending. You can't go broke because you got to afford that flight home. You got to still make rent or whatever, or buy groceries. There is a risky third weight that's very secret and not immediately visible, and that is letting go of everything and spending freely and saying F it to the budget, which I did do a little bit, and I will admit I spent way more than I thought, and I was a bit of a credit card tapping queen because it was just so easy, and I wanted to do everything and eat everything that I didn't even realize how much money I was spending. The money's gone, but I will say that the friendships and the experiences I made along the way were well worth that expense. So those are your 2.5 stones that you should think about before you travel. My recommendation out of your 3 choices of working in a new city and just really experiencing and getting to know one place really well, or traveling, seeing all these great things, meeting all these new types of people, really being able to learn about yourself and the self-discovery of it, or the third, free living. Forget about money. Wow, that third option is scary. It's really scary. My recommendation, though, between those 3 weights would be honestly that I can't really give you one. I bounce between the idea of remote working. I've yet to do it, but I bounce between at least budgeting or staying in another city, working in a new city all the time. I think I'm still trying to figure that out, and I think that's part of growing as a person is, you should always try to push your comfort zone and try something new.
Yeah, 100%. I think you need to actually go try it to know.
And I just feel like that's kind of what life is about. You make mistakes, you learn about those mistakes, it falls apart again, so you relearn, and then you make a new mistake, and then you have to relearn about it again, and that is the cycle. But these are all really important things that you should think about before you go out and land in a new country or a new city.
There's such a stark difference between the two. It really just depends on the type of person you are. I mean, you could even save the money before you even go to another country. You don't necessarily have to work in another country at all. If you just want to travel, do it. I think that's the best way to reel yourself in and really set that mindset of saving in place. Because if you don't have money, you're just going to be stranded in another country. And why would you waste that money on a flight just to be stranded? Save your money.
I guess money is the key aspect in all of this. And the last thing you want to do is have no way home or nothing to eat. That would suck.
Just depends on what you want to do and your ultimate goals with traveling.
I think I've said all that I want to say for this episode, and we will conclude it here.
Yeah, so thank you so much for listening to this episode of Guess Where I Am.
I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of a mix up between Coke and I talking, where when we recorded with Coke, I was there and we bounced back and forth, but there's something wrong with my side of things. So I had to re-record it, and now Coke's having issues. So now we're just kind of like, or I guess I'm, as editor, just piecing it back together. So I hope that you guys were really able to get something from this, and it made you guys think about the next time you want to travel and how you want to make that work, whether that's, no income or income while doing it. There's always a lot to think about, and we just here at Guess Where I Am want to make sure that you all are as prepared as possible so that you can really have so much fun when you're traveling, because if you have to think about all these little things in the moment, it gets stressful. It could be a little anxiety ridden. So let's just think about it ahead of time, right? The next episode, like I kind of talked about in the beginning, will be my thrills and spills. And this episode will be called An All-Women's Hostel versus Two Sisters and a Man. Let's add a few snippets from that. We have 12 girls, one hostel room. It's 3 a.m. and there's curtains for privacy. Now, I know what some of you freaks are thinking. Now, where's the crime in all of this? You're probably wondering. This all just seems so ordinary. And it was. Right? That was until 3 a.m. And you're probably wondering, how do I know the exact time? All of the lights, boom, went on. All the nasty fluorescent overhead lights, boom, on. So me, awoken, boom. Rebecca throws open Sarah's curtain to reveal a man. This is an all-females hostel room. Men aren't allowed to be in here, and all hell breaks loose between the three girls. So make sure you guys tune in 2 weeks to hear An All-Women's Hostel Room versus Two Sisters and a Man. It gets cheeky. All right, and there is a really important lesson in there.
Don't forget to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you're listening to the podcast, and even Pinterest. Now, we're on there.
I don't know what the heck is going on Pinterest, but we have it. So, love you. Have an amazing week. Bye.
Bye.